Hi, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to everyone here. My name is Anna Liu. I'm the CEO of Hashkey Tokenization. It is my privilege to be the MC for this session. So the topic we are talking about is tokenization. Tokenization is transforming how we own, trade, and access assets. By bringing real-world assets onto the blockchain, we are creating new opportunities for investors and institutions alike. And as tokenization from pilot projects to real-world implementation, we need to address some key challenges. For example, what assets are suitable for tokenization? What drives institutional investors to adopt tokenized products? And most importantly, how can market participants get started in a compliant and sustainable way? So these are the questions we will explore together with our distinguished guest today. So to get us started, probably I will just invite these two brilliant ladies to introduce themselves, probably about yourselves and your organization, please.
Yeah, so I will start. Hello, everyone. I'm Shukyee. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Plume Network. And Plume Network is the leading RWA blockchain with the most RWA holder globally. And we have tokenized over 5 billion assets on chain. We have 200 available protocols for RWA ecosystem. At the same time, we have over 500 million TVL on chain. With all the 200K RWA holders, we're actually building the leading blockchain for RWA specifically. And I'm very happy to be here with Anna and with Rania together to talk about tokenization and share our insights together.
Hi everyone, my name is Rania and I lead sales and business development for Ondo Finance in Asia. Ondo Finance, we are the first and one of the largest issuer of tokenized US Treasury bills with 1.5 billion in TVL across our institutional and retail products. Our retail product is live on over 10 chains, including Plume's, one of our partners. We have actually launched tokenized stocks, about over 100 of single US stocks and ETFs on the Ethereum blockchain just over a month ago and have hit 350 million in TVL to also become the largest issuer of tokenized stocks. I'm really excited to be here today with our great other panelists and moderator, Anna, sharing more about tokenization, but also really happy to be here in Shanghai. So 感谢万象还有 Hashkey 集团的邀请，非常的开心能在这里和大家分享。
Great, thank you so much. Probably we can just go dive strictly into the heart of the matter. So we heard constantly about tokenization, right? But for many people, the fundamental question is still why. So we often get a question from our investors that I can buy this asset already today from traditional distribution channels, for example, the money market funds. Why do I want to buy the tokenized asset? In your view, what can blockchain enable in this tokenized asset that traditional finance cannot enable? What is the incremental value of having this asset? I'd like to hear probably from both of you in terms of this question. Probably start from Shukyee.
Sure, I will start. So there's like a very obvious comparison that I can share with you, all of you guys. Basically, for BlackRock, if we're talking about the builder holders, it's only like around like 50. So 你们这边有 BlackRock builder 的 holder 吗? So raise your hand if you hold any, right? It's like you cannot see any institutional builder holder, but for as builder on Plume, we have over 5,000 holders. That's the magic of tokenizing the money market fund on Plume or on chain, because we actually make it easier for the holders to invest in a money market fund. And before Plume, there were less than 50,000 RWA holders on chain. And after we launched the mainnet not long ago, like 5 months ago, 4 months ago, actually, we actually, have created like over 200 K RWA holders on chain. And that's the number that we want to share with everyone because, like for a lot of emerging markets, the users, it's very hard for the users to register investment banking account or, securities account or get the access to the US assets, right? So it's like for Plume, our job is to smoothen all of the flows here so users can actually get access to those, top tier assets. And that's, the first part, the first beauty part of tokenization. Second part will be how we offer the DeFi utilities of different RWAs on chain, especially on Plume. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but like Plume is the inventor of the term RWA-Fi. So we put RWA and DeFi together because we care about DeFi ecosystem so much that we actually create a tagline called, RWA-Fi. Before we promoted this term, there were like less than 1,000 results on like Twitter. Like if you search Twitter about RWA-Fi, no one was talking about it because no one actually knew how to combine RWA with DeFi. But what we care is the RWA's DeFi utilities on chain. For example, with the Ondo money market fund, can you use it as the collateral assets? Can you use it as the looping strategies collateral assets? Or can you trade it in the secondary marketplace? That's what we care and that's what we're building. So this is an RWA ecosystem and that's why we have to tokenize the assets on chain. It's for emerging markets, it's for the retail users, and also for more liquidities of different RWAs.
Yeah, I think how we think about it at Ondo is we always focus on the assets that have the most liquidity and demand in the real world, and we bring them on chain to actually unlock new capabilities. This is why we've always focused on tokenizing US Treasury bills, money market funds, and as I mentioned, US public equities recently as well. The reason actually why we bring them on chain and unlock the new capabilities is actually very similar to some of the reasons that Shukyee have just mentioned. The way we think about it is really three main reasons. The first is accessibility, the second is capital efficiency, and the third is operational efficiency. Very similar to also on what Shukyee just mentioned. Accessibility is about actually broadening access to these high quality financial products that might typically be difficult for users in emerging markets or emerging economies to access. But now you can actually easily obtain US stocks on chain really via many of the distribution partners. But in addition to accessibility, I think what really makes the blockchain rail so efficient is that it is 24/7 settlement, lower transaction costs, fewer intermediaries. But above all, you can do so much with your assets on chain, and that's really, I think, the capital efficiency that we've been looking at. You can use your assets for borrowing and lending use cases as collateral on many of the DeFi protocols because of the permissionless nature of all these tokens.
Yeah, that's very insightful. Thanks. And Shukyee, you just mentioned the word RWA-Fi, right? That's something I would like to explore more. So as the builder of a dedicated RWA network, what's your perspective on the future of the RWA-Fi ecosystem? So do you believe that RWA-Fi will develop as a distinct ecosystem with its own infrastructure and standard, or it will eventually merge with the traditional DeFi like we know today?
That's a very good question. So the answer is yes, and for both. Basically, RWA-Fi protocols are largely dependent on all of the DeFi protocols utilities as for now. For example, we work with Merkle, Morpho, all of the curators in the lending protocols to provide the liquidities in the collateral market. But at the same time, there are just like a lot more innovative protocols deploying on Plume. They're actually looking for the real-time redemption. They're setting up the insurance fund to actually provide the liquidities for RWAs. At the same time, there are also some pay-fi yield. For example, PayPal USD. They're like offering the yield for They're offering the yield for cross-border payment, but at the same time, all of these yields can become the collateral assets for you to spend in your daily spending utilities in real life. So it's like a merger of TradFi and DeFi, but also at the same time, we got a lot of DeFi communities coming in because of two reasons. First of all, they got like very disappointed on whatever is going on, like the market flop a lot and the DeFi yields are not like very satisfying. And at the same time, second reason, at the same time, they want to do the risk mitigation. Because like people don't know whether there's gonna be, it's gonna be like the bull market or the bear market for the next year. So people are like getting prepared for this. So a lot of DeFi communities, especially the DeFi whales, we've been seeing the transactions on chain a lot. People are deploying, like $500,000, $1 million, into Apollo private credit fund, BlackRock money market fund, T-bills, all of those products, right? So basically, for all of these transactions, they are actually showing that the DeFi communities are actually getting converted into RWFI communities. In a way that we're saying that all of the assets that we're bringing on chain are actually matching with their expectations of their yields during, like maybe, the bull to bear market transition, period. So like, I would say it's like a merge of DeFi and TradFi, but for all of the builders that are building in the RWFI ecosystem, they're actually, they have both TradFi and DeFi background, but for all of their technologies, they're like largely based on the DeFi's infrastructure as for now in the market. So I would say all of the TradFi part are done off-chain. For example, risk mitigation, risk assessment, audits, compliance, all of these are done off-chain. When it's on-chain, we provide a compliance infrastructure. For example, on-chain AML, whitelisting or blacklisting, all of these compliance infrastructure are provided by Plume as a chain. But for the RWFI builders, they're just like, well, all they have to worry is like how to convert the DeFi protocols into the RWFI protocols. That's how it works, like Morpho, Pando, and of course Ondo, like a lot of the people who are trying to, like build this RWFI ecosystem together. So it's not only like pure TradFi or pure DeFi, but eventually they're going to be merged together nicely in the future. Not only from the builders part or the protocols part, but all of the users and the wells and the capitals they're converting into RWFI. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And next question is for Rania. So I think we can talk about investors. So Ondo's products like OUSG and USDY have seen remarkable traction. So what do you think matters most to institutional investors? Is it yield, regulatory compliance, or decentralization when selecting the assets that they're going to invest in?
Thank you, Anna. That's actually a really great question, because I'd say that one thing very unique about RWAs, and in particular on those tokenized treasuries products, USDY and OUSG, is that we're able to actually give our investors all three of the above that you've just mentioned. It's yield that is safe. Our products are structured in a regulatory compliant manner, but yet they still offer the composability and permissionless nature of tokens that we see in DeFi to ensure these DeFi utility. So if we just break this down kind of a little bit, how our tokenized products are actually issued is of a regulatory D exemption for our institutional tokenized treasuries product, OUSG, as well as a Reg S exemption for USDY, our retail yield-bearing stablecoin, and our global markets tokenized stocks. This actually means that amongst other things, our retail products are actually not available for sale in the US or in China and subject to other jurisdictional-based restrictions as well. But one thing that's really unique in terms of the way our products actually structured is that we have the investor protection that we typically see in traditional finance that we can actually bring on chain, that holders can actually be able to actually have the same kind of protection, and this means like a bankruptcy remote structure, for instance. In this, so in the case that Ondo Finance ceases to operate today or even tomorrow, any holder of our asset can actually have a direct claim to the underlying. And this is actually not a structure that is typically seen on many of the on-chain products, but of course in traditional finance, and we managed to actually bring that. We also, of course, have a independent verification agent that actually does these daily audits. So in the event that we don't meet any of our obligations, such as the instant settlement or over collateralizations, they can actually have the ability to seize these assets and pay out the underlying to our holders. But one thing that I would also say, apart from all these traditional kind of benefits, is really the yield that we pay out and where they're coming from. So for on-chain holders, typically, 4 to 5% of yield may not seem the most attractive when you can probably get native staking yields for 8%. Some, protocols that, Shukyee mentioned can maybe offer you 20, 30, or even more by, certain cash and trading strategies. But that's not really the area in which we focus on. Our yield paid natively all comes directly from the underlying, which is high quality financial assets, US Treasury bills, very liquid, very safe, very secure. At the same time, our products can also be used, as I mentioned earlier, as collateral or borrowing lending in certain DeFi protocols. So it's really, I think, this very unique nature on what we play in this RWA space, that we're regulatory compliant, we have investor protection, we have very safe and secure kind of yield, native yield being paid out, but also the DeFi utility that really makes RWA and our products so appealing to a lot of institutional or even any of our clients, and that's kind of really why they are they like us, and why we as a whole feel very excited about the tokenization space, because we're really only just getting started. The on-chain, if we just look at the tokenized treasuries, for example, it has more than tripled even in the last year to almost 8 billion right now. But this is really still a fraction of the $1 trillion market of the treasury bills that we see in traditional finance. So yeah, we're really all just getting started.
Okay, thank you. I think both of you mentioned the combination of TradFi and DeFi. So I believe that this is also a very hot topic, right? Probably, I think today there will be in our audience, there will be many asset owners. So we will also, we would all like to know that what type of asset are you looking for, right? I think probably Plume has a different focus, right? So with I think Ondo. So we'd like to hear from both of you that what specific asset are you looking for?
So first of all, our most popular assets on Plume so far are the financial products like T-bills, money market fund, private credit fund. Like all of these very structured financial products are very popular on Plume, I would say. But recently we've been seeing a lot of transitions from all of the traditional financial products to some of the interesting esoteric assets. For example, we announced the tokenization of durian farm revenue on chain. That's like durian yields. And our communities, they're all crazy about it. They're like, oh, that's like the new use case of RWA. But down to earth, if we think about the basic logic, they're the same. We tokenize the yields on chain, and you can get access to the yields. So by holding the assets on chain, basically. So they're all the same. But why are people so excited about Durian? Because this is something new that we've been trying. Even though it's we don't know whether it's gonna be successful on chain or not, but we actually wanna bring all of the different assets on chain. So that's why we partner with different types of assets issuers. For example, we partner with, in Asia, we partner with China Merchant Bank International, 招银国际的货币基金，对，然后我们也有很多就是其他的，像 Invesco 还有 UBS 的 UMint 也在我们上面。So for example, all of these Asian focus, we're trying to bring all of the Asian assets available for Latin America or US investors to get the access to. So it's not just about the assets, it's more where do we want to gain the capital from? Where do we want to gain the assets from? Do we want to do it for the global adoption, or we want to do it like GeoBand with for some very specific assets? And so there are also some like very interesting assets that I want to talk about. For example, the solar panel yields that we tokenize, like the energy vault that we've been promoting recently. Like for all of those yields, like they are like very high, but also like these are like the very new assets, which means that they probably don't have the real-time redemption, but through all of our RWA ecosystem, we make it, you know, like we make them available for real-time redemption. So I would say like for all of that, we're open to different assets. We're not like really like picking on the assets, but you know, like in the future, what we care is the secondary market and the liquidities or the real-time redemption of the assets. That's like our standard. And also, we actually partner with Cyberport on the program called Bridge Program. So we're actually looking for the local Hong Kong asset issuers to bring their assets on chain. And in this way, we're going to build, you know, like the new assets for, you know, Latin America's or, you know, Southeast Asia's users to get access to. So right now, we've been seeing, you know, some pre-IPO equities. They're actually talking to us about this, and we've been seeing like the tokenized real estate in Hong Kong. So like I think all of these are like very interesting assets that we're trying to explore. But you know, as for now, the most popular assets will be the financial products. Yeah.
Rania.
So I think, you know, like in Plume, maybe they focus more on a diversified set of assets. I think in Ondo, our narrative has always been focusing on the assets have the most liquidity and kind of demand in the real world. As I mentioned, we started looking at tokenizing treasury bills, and we're actually the first issuer to do so. And then now public equities. I think when in terms of the asset managers here thinking about this space, I think it still brings back to the point, the first question that I think Anna asked us, which is why do we tokenize these assets on chain? And for us at least, you know, the main things we really think about is what's the on-chain utility? Why are we bringing? Is it more accessibility? Is it more capital efficiency, or operationally at least? And that's really mostly how I think we start thinking about that. But I do definitely agree that one big component of why these assets are so attractive on chain is definitely the ability to use them as collateral. This is not something that's readily available in the real world today. Yeah, and so for us, the focus really the rest of this year is actually on increasing the AUM of our tokenized stocks, more users bring on chain. We're expanding multi-chain and also increasing the number of distribution partners, including a lot of those based out here in China and the region as well.
Thank you. So, like, I think asset is on one hand, right? The other hand would be investors. So, like, given the underlying assets are from traditional finance, right? So, like, after tokenization, I think still like a financial product. So, do you think that from investor side, do you think like the investors that purchase those assets, are they from on-chain or traditional ways through traditional distributors?
That's a very, very good question. So like for most of our users, they're on chain. They got converted from the DeFi world basically. But we've been promoting this to a lot of the institutional investors, and within all of the institutional investors, some of them are like already the on-chain users or the on-chain investors. So they have large, reserved USDT or USDC stable coins on-chain. But also some of them, they're like getting converted on-chain. So we're bringing the new capital from off-chain to on-chain. That's like very interesting. But also at the same time, so recently we partnered with Ant Group, RWA Wallet. It's called Top Knot. At the same time, we're trying to explore more possibilities from the web to retail users. Because once the on-off ramp, is like very smooth for everyone, they actually won't notice whether it's going to be on-chain transaction or off-chain transaction. All they have to do is connect their credit card or bank account to the wallet, and they can access to BlackRock, Blackstone, Invesco, like solar panel, Vault, something like that. So like I'll say, you know, like in the future, there will be more capital coming in from off-chain to on-chain for sure, because this is like, we're lowering the boundary for retail investment. But at the same time, I will see like, I will say like for most of the capitals that are staying in the vaults or in the RWFI ecosystem are mostly on-chain as for now, yeah.
I'll definitely say that there are two groups of users we're primarily targeting. The first and foremost and the main one will probably be currently on-chain holders, and for them to be able to access a different kind of asset class rather than the typical cryptocurrency tokens. The second group I'd say is more users maybe who are not so familiar with on-chain, but really want to access these products that they traditionally may not be able to get it via the traditional brokerages or models. So yes, the Topnot's also one of our partners. They're primarily targeting a lot of the more native Web2 users, but also of users in emerging economies. So I think right now, I think a lot of on-chain holders are really the primary group there, just because they are quite familiar with this setup and how things are going. But you know, as I said before, we're still very much early in this journey, and I think there's a lot of room and space for us to continue growing this ecosystem.
Yeah, that's very clear. So like now, like seems both of you are more like focusing on financial products or like the assets with like a higher liquidity. So just wondering, because now we talk about like RWA quite a lot. So definitely there will be non-financial product RWAs. So what's the key challenges for those non-financial product RWA to be tokenized and then be on-chain?
Like we can actually go very broad on this because, you know, there's no unified policies or acts on tokenization or distribution as for now. So like the biggest challenge that I've been seeing, like the one core challenge that I've been seeing is like people actually don't know how to tokenize the assets. Meanwhile, you know, following up with the policymakers, you know, suggestion, because there's no clear rules. So like what we can do is just, you know, to offer the on-chain level infrastructure, for example, on-chain AML, whitelisting, blacklisting, all of these infrastructure to make sure the chain is compliant enough for people to tokenize. But for all of the different, you know, like different types of assets, it's very hard to define. It's very hard to define their, you know, asset classes. That's why, you know, it's very hard to ensure, you know, the ownership of the assets on chain. Like no matter how fast you can do with the, you know, data oracle from off chain to on chain, it's still like a matter of whether it's gonna be legally admitted that you are the owners of the assets. So I think for that, of course, it's kind of like, it's a very broad topic that we have to talk to the regulators and the policymakers all the time. But I think if we can solve this problem from the on-chain level, it's probably going to be, you know, the one unified standard of the tokenized assets that can capture the data off-chain, that can, you know, ensure your ownership of the assets, ownership. But at the same time, I feel like this is like a very broad topic that, you know, like something that we cannot solve by our own efforts. We have to, you know, work with the regulators a lot more to make sure that there's like a way that we can, you know, like tokenize different types of assets under the policies that to make sure that everyone has the ownership of the assets, yeah.
So I think for us, we don't really focus on the non-financial products, at least in the current state. But I don't really think tokenization is really a technological problem. I think it's really more about the demand and distribution. So the thing about tokenization is we can tokenize anything on chain, but ultimately who are the buyers? And it gets to the question again of why are they buying it? So unless we can unlock, I think, more utility for users, I think that is really the biggest piece that we're looking to solve.
Right. Yes, I definitely agree with both of you on this. Though, like we talk about tokenization, actually, like seems like everything can be tokenized, but I think technology-wise should be like correct, right? But just when we talk about implementation, use cases in especially financial, the industry, definitely we can't just go beyond the current or like the regulatory landscape. that's why I think at this stage, probably the standardized and like financial products will be the current things that are happening, and just probably like by progressively there will be like just exploring to other type of license of assets. So I think still today many people they told me that they just think it's actually a quite high threshold to enter into this space, no matter from investors angle or entrepreneurs angle or asset owners angle. So if you are going to give them like one piece of practical advice in entering into the space, so yeah, what would be that?
For the asset issuers, I will say before you actually tokenize your assets, think about what you can provide on-chain and what you can gain on-chain. For example, if you're tokenizing like a very high yield product, it means that you can give all of the yields on-chain for the users or the token stablecoin holders. But it also means that whether you can provide enough liquidity or whether you can provide the real-time redemption, real-time data for all of the retail users or the institutional users or investors to check on, the basically whether the assets are real or not. So it's like a tokenization itself, like tokenizing the assets itself is not hard. But for all of the off-chain preparation, it's gonna be like a long process. So before you actually enter the tokenization phase, like think about what you can provide on-chain and also what you can gain on-chain before really do this step. Because talking to the regulators and getting all of the compliance advice from the legal firms and choosing a chain to tokenize, using like protocols to for distribution, talking to the DeFi protocols for DeFi utilities and liquidities. All of these are like very hard. Like every single step will take a lot of time and effort. So before you tokenize it, you better think about like what you want to gain on chain, what you can provide for the on-chain users. Yeah.
I think for anyone here in the audience, be it you're new to Web3 or you're a seasoned investor, maybe looking to tokenize your assets, my advice ultimately would be the same. Do your own research. A lot of education is still needed, I think, in this space. I think as with any fast-growing and new industry, there's also naturally a lot of noise as well. And I think then it's really quite important, I think, to really understanding why you're actually going to get into this, what you're looking for. Come to more conferences like the 万象区块链周，多听一下这些演讲吧。Or otherwise, I would just say partnering with the right people in this space. So one way, Ondo likes to see ourselves is as the bridge between traditional finance and the crypto natives. So on the insurance side, we've worked with BlackRock, Franklin Templeton, Fidelity, MasterCard, JP Morgan, all the traditional asset managers. But on the blockchain and crypto side, we're live on over 10 chains, all the largest blockchains, all your top exchanges, wallets, DeFi protocol. So, really, I think there's so much to learn and still explore and grow in this space. But yes, definitely do your own research.
Actually, let me add one more. So if you don't know where to do the research, where to start, 你可以关注我们的小红书 It's called 语链 So you can find a lot of useful contents on 小红书 Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I think in the interest of time, probably we'll just pause here. So, thank you guys. Like, it was really like insightful discussion. 对，希望就是通过今天的这个 panel 也给大家一些这个启发。这个其实我刚刚才发现，就是咱们三个都讲中文，因为这个今天临时我们有一位这个 panel speaker 来不了了，那位是讲英文的，所以我们整个是用这个英文来呈现。但是对我觉得还是就是非常开心，然后因为这个变成了一个 girls talk， 对吧？也让这个现场的气氛更轻松一点。好，那我们时间关系，我们这个今天的 panel 就到这里，然后谢谢大家，也谢谢两位。
好，谢谢，非常感谢我们的圆桌主持人以及我们两位分享嘉宾，谢谢 ，Thank you so much for the wonderful sharing. Please take your seat. Thank you.